Do you ever wonder what happened to Garden City, Last Chance You, Netflix legendary football coach Jeff Sims? Well, guess what? The no-nonsense rival, or should I say arch rival of Coach Jason Brown, is finally breaking his silence right here on the Juco Prep Pipeline podcast. I'm your host, Jacob Stotsky, and in this episode, he'll be talking about legendary players that he's coached, including Levante David and Jason Pierre-Paul, what he thinks of the state of junior college football with the new junior college and Division II ruling, as well as the state of college football with the Transfer Portal and NIL. You don't want to miss this, so like, comment, and subscribe below, and let's get it!
Shut the fuck up! Shut up! You're better than them! Stop acting like you're not! Stop trying to be like them! Stop not handing the ball to the official! Stop flexing on people! Stop doing their shit! Play ours and you'll kick their ass! When you play like them, you show you don't believe in yourself!
Thank you so much for taking your time, and I see that you work for some like moving company. What made you decide to get into that industry?
Okay. Couple things. So I was a college football coach for 27 years. And we moved 9 times in those 27 years. And it really didn't affect my kids in any negative way or anything like that until the 9th move. And in the 9th move, my kids were in high school. And so when I moved, getting new friends in middle school and elementary, that's one thing, but your high school friends are pretty important and stuff. So when we moved that time, it was more of a challenge. And so then when Missouri Southern let me go, I had the decision: do I want to go to Boston to coach football or North Carolina to coach football? And my family was supportive. But basically they were like, hey, you're going to have to go on your own and stuff. So I started looking at other things to do. And I was fortunate that through coaching, I made connections. And one of my former players called me up and said, Coach, business is just like football. And he said, the opportunity is great, and I want you to come here and work with us. And so I trusted that player and took the opportunity and came here and things have been very well.
Yeah, I'm like amazed at the fact that like you're that multifaceted, that you could go from like a football coach to being like the #1 moving company according to all these ratings I saw in Kansas City. So like that is really admirable.
Well,
And
I appreciate you saying that, Jacob. I'll tell you a couple things about that. Okay. First off, what coaching is and what business is very similar. We build teams. And I would argue that in our society, we celebrate teachers and we celebrate coaches. And what they do is admirable. It's awesome. Okay. We probably need to celebrate business leaders a little bit more, because I would tell you that I coached because people changed my life and helped me. And I like to do that when I was a coach. However, in business, I actually feel like we're going through life with people. Okay. So when you coach someone, you're giving them an education and then you're sending them off into the world and you hope it works. But in business, you're actually living life with them. They're getting married, they're having kids, they're buying houses, and you're helping them, grow. You're spending, in coaching, you spend, maybe you're in high school and you spend, age 14 to 18 with them, or you're in coaching and you spend 18 to 22 with them, or you're a teacher and you spend a year with them. In business, you might hire someone when they're 25 and you might work with them until they're 65, and so you're really going through life with them. Also, I would tell you that as a teacher and a coach, you say you do it to serve people. Okay. But as a coach, I helped a lot of people, but usually the first criteria for me to help them was that they could run fast, jump high, and usually were tall and long. Okay. Where in this world, if you're willing to do the work, if you're willing to be committed, we don't care how tall you are. We don't care how fast you are. We care that you're willing to take care of the customers and take care of your teammates.
That's a great point. And, I never really thought about like how football can translate into like so many different life, opportunities like and lessons as well. And, congrats on your business success. As I said again, congrats on your ability to adapt. That is amazing. And congrats on like honestly on all your success at junior college as a coach. Like you've had players like Fort Scott, you had Levante David, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and Jason
Yep.
Pierre-Paul, and you
Yep.
had Terry Wilson at Garden City,
Mhm.
and you were on a famous show, Last Chance You, briefly. And something I noticed from the show that's like very admirable is that, like, yeah, of course, winning matters as a coach. There's no question about it. But you seem to care about those players from a much deeper level than winning, if I'm not mistaken. Like you probably help the players, in their personal lives as well as their like football careers. That is what I understood from the show.
You know, I you asked a couple things, so just a couple facts. I coached 70 professional players, 63 guys that went to the NFL, and those guys' career earnings as of last year was $375 million. All right. So I've been very fortunate to be around a lot of great players. And coaches changed my life. And I'd like to think um, that we used football as a vehicle to get them the education, to get them the life that they need, and stuff like that. The you talk about junior college and stuff like that. You know, you also asked about like me getting out of coaching. I don't have a total positive vibe about the coaching profession, not the coaches per se, but the media and stuff like that. Because I think some of the things that they say, they don't really have all the information, and I also think a lot of things that they do are to get clicks and stuff like that. Um, I would tell you that anybody that's willing to coach junior college football, I'm sure there's always bad actors, there's always things like that, but if you're willing to coach junior college football, you you know you're sacrificing a lot. You're talking about living in most of these coaches, you're not living in the town you grew up in, most of them. Okay. You're moving to a new city, which isn't moving to Athens, Georgia, or Bloomington, Indiana, or like you're moving to small towns. All right. And like they're really wanting you to win or lose. And so they want you to win or lose. Your coaching staffs are getting paid. I was a head coach at a junior college. We had $18,000 to divide up amongst four coaches to as my staff. I've been, I've had coaches that the guy who got me the job here, all right, uh, he worked for me. He made $1,000 a month and had room and board, and he had played in the NFL. Okay. So and that is not a unique story. That's pretty typical at junior college. You talked about a show like Last Chance You. Um, you know, I'm sure there's people out there that love Jason Brown, and I'm sure there's guys out there that don't like Jason Brown. But what I would say is that Jason Brown was willing to go be the head football coach at Independence Community College. I know for a fact that when he applied, there were two applicants for the job. There were two, right? You know, so like for him even to be willing to go there, all right, and to do that job, I mean, when I took the head coaching job at at Fort Scott Community College, I had to be the dorm director. I had to watch the dorms. and we're talking about jobs that are, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. I was just one of the guys that works with me was the head football coach at Navarro Junior College, and they used to walk their players back to the dorms every night because the city that they lived in, there was some rough spots, and they had to make sure that their guys were safe. So there's a big commitment, coaching at a junior college, coaching at small college football. There's not a lot of glory with it. So if you're doing it, I would say that while maybe every coach isn't perfect and every player isn't perfect, that's the place to have the opportunity. Recently, I had a newspaper reporter. He wrote in an article that Coach Sims stood outside of a prison to recruit a guy who had done 3+ years in jail. Okay. Well, I did reach out to the guy, the guy that said that, and I go, that's not true. I go, I didn't stand outside of a prison to pick up anybody up. But the guy you're referring to is Robert McField. And Robert McField did 5 years in prison for armed robbery. All right. And then when he was done, his mother wrote a letter to every football coach in junior college in the country, and only one answered, and that was me. And the reason I was the one that answered was when she wrote the letter, she talked about where he was from, and he was from St. Louis, and I'm from St. Louis. And he happened to be from relatively the same neighborhood that I'm from. And while what he did was totally inexcusable, and he went to prison for it, he went to prison at 18 and was coming out at 23. He's going to live another 40 years. So somebody has to give him an opportunity to get an education, to get better, to do those things. And so I gave him a shot and had the blessing of the school and this and that. And he came and he played for us. And he ended up graduating from our school. He then went to Pittsburgh State University, which is a highly respected school with championship pedigree. And he graduated from there and got his master's degree. And today he public speaks around the country, and he's a really successful guy. What if I would have answered the letter? What if I would have gave him a shot? What if, because he didn't have no, like, and I will tell you, I gave lots of guys shots. And I will tell you, I can sit here and tell you lots of awesome stories, but I also can tell you about some guys that it didn't go right. But somewhere, somehow, people have to have an opportunity to get right. And I always felt like junior college was a great place for that. And, it worked for some and it didn't work for others.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. It's like, people make mistakes when they're young. At the end of the day, if you had a camera recorded on you, and I think you said this on the show, and, even though you, Coach Brown, it was tough, sometimes you got into fights and stuff. That's normal for football. No judgments on my part. Um, you still like said the truth, and you said that in like one of the episodes. It's like if you put a camera next to you and you had a camera recording you every single day, you'd have some crazy things about like yourself too. And I
Sure.
honor the fact that like you could tell the truth, even if necessary, even though there's some tension between you and him, that you still were like honest about that.
Sure. Well, the a television show is edited, all right, and it's
Yeah.
edited for entertainment. And the reality is the people on that show were doing it to improve the lives of the people on the show. Okay. Like I don't mean this flippantly in any way, but I'm not going to worry about people I don't know. I'm going to worry about the people that I do know. And I think people should wonder sometimes, okay, if if Jeff Sims is a bad guy, then why do these guys play for him? Why do they do the things that they do and have the success that they have? Why do the guys go play for Jason Brown and this and that and whatnot? Again, if you highlight every minute of every day, there are things that you can look at. But I've just found that if you do a little digging and really ask the questions, you find out there's more to the story a lot of times. I will tell you that because I was on that show that I've had people call me and say the most wonderful things to me. Okay. And I would tell you that I'm probably not near as good as they were saying. And then I've had people call me and tell me the worst things ever. And I would tell you I'm probably not as bad as they think I am. It's probably somewhere in between. But I would tell you that everybody that has ever called, I've always been willing to talk to them. And usually when the questions are asked by the end of it, we all kind of have a good understanding of stuff. And the reality is we all need a shot. People took care of me in junior college. I think junior college is, Jacob, I would tell you this. Junior college is the biggest opportunity out there that we haven't taken advantage of. One day somebody's going to really pour into it and help develop. Junior college. 3 types of guys go to junior college, Jacob. The 3 types of guys that go to junior college are guys that weren't good enough. Okay, now what does not good enough mean? It means that wherever you were playing, you did not do enough to grab the attention of someone to come see you and make you play. All right, make you want to be part of their team. I'll give you a good example. Levante David, he wasn't good enough. All right. Well, why wasn't he good enough? Because he played on a high school team that had so many good players that he blended in. It was hard to identify him, this and that. And so, that's a great example. Jason Pierre-Paul wasn't good enough. He'd only played 1 year. He was lean. He was, Aaron Hosack played for the Minnesota Vikings. He wasn't good enough. Why? Because he was a tweener. He wasn't big enough to play tight end. He was too slow to play wide receiver. That's coming out of high school. All right. So they need a place to go and develop. The other type of player is one that's not academically qualified. All right. They're talented enough to play at a high level, but their academics aren't in a position to go. But why aren't their academics in a position to go? Well, I'll tell you this. Every high school ain't equal, Jacob. I've been to lots of different high schools, and every high school ain't the same. And everybody's life isn't the same. My kids have had a pretty good life and go to pretty good schools, but both their parents are married, both their parents are educated, both their parents value education. We haven't had any deaths or accidents or major illnesses. But I'll tell you, my dad was in prison when I was in college. My wife's dad wasn't around when she was in college. So the life that my kids have are totally different than the life that I had. And I would tell you that I've went to players' house. I've went to high schools before to see a player, and he wasn't there. And at the school, they'd be like, yeah, he misses about 50% of the time of school. And, his grades aren't very good. And then we would drive over to his house and we'd get there and we'd find out he was watching his little brother and sister because his mom had to go to work and they couldn't afford daycare. All right. Wow. There's just been so many different things. I've coached guys like Joe Williams who went on to play at Baylor and their lives just weren't perfect from 14 to 18. All right. And so they didn't academically qualify. So then they go to junior college and they get that right. Then the third type is the one that everybody likes to talk about, which I think is the I think it's what really hurts junior college and just really upsets me about reporters sometimes, upsets me about human nature sometimes.
Sorry, just to interrupt. I am not here on any
No,
agenda. I
no, I know
promise
you
you
are. I
that.
know you're. I know. Yeah, absolutely. I don't think you are. As a matter of fact, you don't come off that way. And by the way, whatever you do with this, you do with it. All right. I'm just spreading information. And
Okay.
so,
I'm
um,
not going to edit it.
yeah,
I'll
yeah,
explain why I'm doing
yeah.
this when you're done.
Okay.
Sorry.
And so, the third type is a guy who made a mistake. Okay, and like, man, I don't know. I would tell you I'm 52 years old. All right. And I just can't understand what it's like to be a teenager these days because there's a camera everywhere. There's the newspaper is online and now lasts forever. So if you make a mistake, forever you have to speak to that. And I just know that before the internet, before that type of stuff, people made mistakes and they overcame them. Okay. And they didn't last forever. I mean, I just can't imagine being judged by something you did when you were 16 or when you were 21 for the rest of your life. And so, you know, my experience in life is I try to judge people for my interactions with them. All right. So I always gave a guy a chance. And so I would bring them onto our team and then I'd let them prove what type of person they are. And, the reality is they were going to be somewhere. So they might have been with us. And I would tell you that anybody ever played in our program, it wasn't easy. So it wasn't like, you could just coach. So you were working hard in the classroom, you were working hard on the football field. And so, we gave those guys the opportunity. And again, I can give lots of stories of guys that messed up that it worked out for. And then also messed up that we found out that, this isn't a good guy and he ain't ready to change. And so we had to get rid of them or move on from them. And, I coached a guy, and I'm not going to say his name, but it breaks my heart because he did something really bad in high school. All right, and he did it, and he was punished for it, and then he paid his punishment. And I was brought up. I thought in our society, if you paid your price, you got to move on. Well, we gave him an opportunity at our school and he never got in trouble ever. 3 years, worked his butt off, did a great job, was a great student, was a great football player. And then when it became time to recruit, he met with schools and he told them what happened in high school. He was forthright about it. Then a university gave him a scholarship and gave him the opportunity to go there. And he went to the university, was told that he could. He did everything right. He was up front, everything. And the president of the university found out that he was there and it hadn't been cleared through him. All right. And the president said he can't go here. And so they rescinded his admissions. And by that time, it was too late to go to another school. Also, it had been in the paper that he was going to that school. So now it's in the paper that he's been dismissed. And so everybody thinks that he did something wrong, but he didn't do anything wrong. It just, they were talking about what he had been transparent about and everything like that. Well, that guy went from I saw him spiral. I saw him. He was like, nobody's going to give me a chance anymore, this and that. And he had, and I would tell you, it still affects him to this day. And, so, I feel like we all make mistakes and I feel like we all need opportunities. And yes, I could tell you 100 things why someone's a bad person, and I probably could find 100 reasons why they're a good person. And I think it's an evolution. We all kind of work through it together.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. It's like, people like to judge a book by its cover, but there's a saying, there's three sides to every coin, right? There's heads, tails, and then the edge.
Yeah, I
And
like that.
people don't ever really like take that into account, which
Yeah,
to me is like, not, it's sad because like certain situations happen, like you said, like people come from different backgrounds, different shapes, different sizes, and not everybody has the same starting opportunity, depending on like your situation growing up. So that's a great point. And going to like this JUCO, because like obviously you've killed it at the JUCO level. I feel like I'm interviewing the Michael Jordan of JUCO coaches here, to be honest with you.
that's nice.
Um, and like basically, how there's been like there's basically this whole thing is like there's been a junior college ruling and there's a Division II ruling and all of this. So I guess like my first question would be like, what are the primary sources of funding for junior college? Where do they mainly get their funds from?
Well, that's a really good question. First off, every junior college isn't the same. It really depends what state you're in. And what I would tell you is that most junior college football is a recruitment tool to add enrollment to your school. Okay. Um, there are there are a lot of young people who are okay. Let's put it like this. A lot of young people want to play football, okay? And are looking for an opportunity to do that. All right. Um, only so many opportunities in Division 1, only so many opportunities in FCS, 1AA, whatever you want to call it. Um, only so many opportunities in Division 2, only so many opportunities in Division 3. But also people dream. People want to play Division 1 football. So, a lot of young people think athletics or music or it is the way to that $1 million lifestyle. And when high school ends, they're trying to go, what do I do next? All right. And they don't want to stop playing. And so they want an opportunity. Well, there's only so many junior colleges that play football. California and their non-scholarship, Kansas is scholarship, Texas is scholarship, Mississippi scholarship. All right. Minnesota is a non-scholarship. So there's a lot of competition for those spots. And so because of that, schools will use football because, I could easily, and I mean this sincerely, if a school called me tomorrow and talked me into coming and coaching, all right, I could go, I conservatively could have 300 players on campus by the second year. All right. The first year, I probably could get it to about 150, but by the second year, I could have 300 guys on campus. And those guys are paying to go to school. Those guys are paying live in the dorms, and so they're upping their enrollment. For a school like Fort Scott, I mean, you're talking to about a school that might have 1,000 students. Well, if there's 150 to 300 of them on campus playing one sport, like that's a significant number. Plus, they're going to school summer, fall, spring. They're taking online courses. They're doing all those things. Now, your answer is, where do they get the funding? Well, very few of the players are on full scholarship, if any. All right. And
In all
and
states?
it depends. Different states have different rules, but in Kansas, for example, most of those guys are getting a books and tuition scholarship. All right. And then they're using their Pell Grant to pay other parts, but that Pell Grant's going to the school. All right. So they're recruiting this Pell eligible person. Now, um, depending upon where you're at, like at a Fort Scott, we'd fundraise at Garden City. We didn't fundraise as much because we had a little more of a tradition. So the school had people who would donate money and stuff like that, not at no grand level, but you would have scholarships. But most of the scholarships there, I would consider discounts. They're giving them books and tuition, waiving those fees so they can get their room and board and Pell Grant. And it brings in a flow of money and stuff. And then remember, that's for your 85 that are on scholarship. You might have 300 kids there, right? Well, they're all there telling their family they're at college playing football, and they're trying to earn themselves onto the team and to get their scholarship. So, there's very few guys that are on full rides. Most of them are on books, tuition, and then they use their Pell. And then if they get additional scholarship to that, it's usually fundraise money.
Interesting. And do you think that I don't know if you coached in JUCO when the transfer portal, I believe you coached Division Two when the transfer portal came
Yep.
about, but I could be wrong. But do you like just based on what you've heard and what you know about the industry, how do you think the new transfer portal rules with unlimited eligibility would affect a junior college? Like, for example, could it deter players from wanting to go there or could it not deter players from wanting to go there? Could it deter coaches from looking at JUCOs because they have high school in the portal, or you don't think that really made a difference?
That's a really good question. I've been, as I talk to junior college coaches and coaches and stuff like that, um, I'm hearing that that the big schools are not going to junior college as much. What they're doing is, so if you're the University of Miami, let's say you're the University of Miami, and you need a player. Well, you're going to recruit a player from, let's say, uh, Florida Atlantic. All right, so there's the let's say you're the leading receiver at Florida Atlantic. Well, a Miami, Ohio State, listen, they're going to try to recruit you off of that team to come to their team. All right. Where Miami used to have to go to junior college maybe to get a guy and stuff. Well, now they're taking them from the big fish are eating little fish. Okay. Well, that means that the Florida Atlantics are then probably stealing from the school smaller than them, and so on and so forth. So it's big fish eating little fish. But what I would tell you is, I don't know if we've seen the full effects, because I actually think that rule change would be the greatest thing to ever happen to junior college football. Because if I was in junior college football right now, I would be talking to my president and I would be recruiting high schools, and I would say, listen, if you're not going to a Power Five, all right, don't go and use eligibility. All right. Come play for us for 2 years, get bigger and stronger, and then you can go to your next school or go to a Power Five and get paid for 4 years. So let's say there's two students. All right. So there's student A out of high school. He goes to Florida Atlantic. All right. And Florida Atlantic doesn't really have NLI money like the big schools. So he goes to Florida Atlantic and he uses, his first year he goes there and he's a freshman. They have juniors and seniors. So he plays a little, but he doesn't really make no money. And then his sophomore year, he plays more and he starts to be something, and people start naming. Then his junior year, he goes off. All right. And he's the best player in the country at his position. And Miami calls him and says, hey, come down. We'll give you $1 million and you'll come play for us. So he really has 1 year to make money, 2 years to make money. Okay. But if his buddy instead goes to junior college, now he plays for 2 years and now he's 20 years old. All right. Now, maybe he's still a Florida Atlantic guy. But now when he goes as a freshman, he's a 21-year-old. All right. And now he makes that impact, and he goes to Miami, and he can be there 2 to 3 years making that $1 million. Okay. Or he goes straight from junior college to that Miami, and he makes money for 4 years, right? Because what I think is really going to be interesting is that you want to extend your eligibility, because what players are going to have to decide is, do I want to go to the NFL? Because if I go to the NFL and I'm a fifth round draft pick, I'm not going to make as much money as if I'm the starter at Miami. And so I would tell you that the if I believe that if you're a junior college that's looking for enrollment, if you invested into your football program, by the way, not your football program, your athletics, all right, you could increase your enrollment at your college significantly, because you're adding a fifth and sixth year of eligibility to athletes.
That's a great point. And do you think with like, because like, so basically from what I understood, what you said, with the new transfer portal rule prior to the new JUCO ruling, it was a little harder. But now with this new JUCO ruling, it could really help junior colleges, because why wouldn't players want to go? My question is, would would the demand for funds, two things, would the demand for funds increase because of this? Like, would they need more scholarship spots if the demand for junior college becomes greater? And then number two, could that turn junior colleges into a prep school, you think? Or not? That's not really likely the
Let's
case.
let's start with question two. Yes, it could make junior college a prep school, and I think that would be outstanding. All right, because here's a couple things too. Is there are a lot of guys in junior college that need academic support. Okay. And you'd be shocked. Like a lot of guys that are good at athletics at any level, academically, they've been spending this time in athletics. It's hard to, you only got 24 hours in a day. All right. So it's hard to do everything. So they can use the extra education. They can use the smaller class sizes. They can use those things to their advantage. So now they get 6 years of college if they really want to. All right. And so I do think the prep school option would be good. And I think an innovative person could build a junior college football program, and there could be multiple of them that upped enrollment at the colleges, upped credit hours in colleges, while providing great education and giving guys additional years of eligibility. Now, when you say, do they need additional funding? All right. I think most of these junior colleges aren't funded that much anyway. Okay. And, they all could use additional funding. What I would say is that anytime you're good at something, people invest. Okay. And so if you were producing, good student athletes in any sport, baseball, softball, football, basketball, to go to these other universities, there's always an opportunity to do things better. I would tell you that I'm a big proponent of NLI. Most coaches like to say, "Oh, things have changed," and this, that, and I think they've changed rightfully so. The reality is, as a coach, I've had people say things about me and stuff like that. Have I ever given a guy money to take care of his flat tire? Yes, I've done that. Have I ever given a guy money to pay his rent? All right, because NCAA rules said that he had to sleep somewhere on his own until a certain date. Like, man, I'm not going to let guys be hungry. I'm not going to let guys, drive on four bald tires, because I know, first off, they're going to drive that car. All right. They're going to go to their girlfriends. They're going to go to their buddies. You know, have I given guy a loan so that he can get into his apartment, so that when he gets his Pell Grant, he pays us back and stuff like 100%. Have I ever cheated in a way that I thought gave us a competitive advantage to win a football game? Absolutely not. I don't make enough money. I don't have nowhere have I ever worked that we have money like that we could do crazy stuff. Now, look, this is a true story, Jacob. I will tell you that I had a player that was recruited by two major universities. All right. And those two universities, their coaches were elite coaches that were totally professional, that totally followed every rule, and they did it exactly right. And then a week before signing date, another major university came in and paid his girlfriend, all right, to get him to go to their school. So they gave her the money to give to him, all right. And he went to that school and started at that school for 2 years. The two schools that did it the right way and followed the rules, within a year, both of those coaching staffs were fired for losing. And the coaching staff that had gotten the kid paid, their contracts had been extended for winning. And that's a real thing that happened. Now, those two schools that were following the rules can also pay their players. All right. And so now those coaches, I believe, if the same situation happened today, that school that won and got contract extensions, all right, they would have never gotten that player because the other two schools could have offered the same thing within the rules and given him what they were giving him. And so, I think the idea of having those type of rules for parity and this and that. But the truth of the matter is you have to give everybody the opportunity to be the best version of themselves. And look, we had at Indiana, we had the largest weight room in college football. All right. Why? To attract guys. It wasn't like it made our guys stronger. All right. The reality is we had money. We couldn't give it to the players. So we built these great facilities to attract guys to come there who had no money. All right. Like, I would have much rather had a reasonable weight room and my guys could pay for their mom to come to the game. Right. Do you have any, Jake? I want you to think about something.
Yes, sir.
You go to the University of Florida, correct?
I do. I also went to the University of Miami for undergrad. Funny enough, I'm also from Miami. So when you told me you were there, that was pretty funny. Yeah.
So I want you to think about this. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. How much does a hotel room cost game day weekend?
Oh,
Okay.
just absurd.
Yes. So think about this. So Jacob, you are from Miami. Okay.
Yes,
And
sir.
you're an elite football player. All right. And Indiana University, it recruits you. And we're going to give you a full scholarship to come to school. Wow, that's awesome. So we're going to give you a full scholarship to come to school. All right. Now, when I first started coaching, we could bring you on a visit, but we couldn't bring your parents. Okay. So your parents would have had to pay for your visit, their part of the visit. Okay. So you're a great football player. Your parents can't afford to come up for the visit. So we bring you up on the visit. We show you around. We show you the biggest weight room in college football. We show you all this stuff, and you decide to come to school for us. All right. So now you go back home. You graduate from high school, and now you're going to come to school, and you're going to school. You're in Indiana. Your parents are in Miami. And of course, they want to come up and see you play. Well, they got to buy a plane ticket. All right. They got to get a rental car. They got to stay in a hotel. Okay. At a Big Ten football game. Like, the hotels are outrageous. They got to have a plane. By the way, it's mom and dad, so it's times two, or it's mom and sister, or dad and brother, or like
Could be all of those.
right? Could be all those coming up there. Think how expensive that is. So you know what happens most of the time? They don't come. So I'd be coaching in Indiana. Game would be over. There's 100,000 people at the game, and now the game ends, and we got 8 guys from Florida who are all waiting after for a pizza. So we all give them a pizza, and they all walk off by themselves because their friends and family aren't at the game. All right, they're all home because they couldn't afford to come. That's a shitty existence. I would have much rather had a much more reasonable weight room and been able to give those guys, whatever money that the market, like America's a great place because the market dictates value. All right. No one's given any of these football players their last dollar. Okay. Jimbo Fisher gets fired at Texas and they write him a $70 million check.
That's insane.
Because the money's there. So why wouldn't it, like, you're telling me that that if we sell the kid's shirt, he shouldn't get a little bit of it? Like you're in the stands and everybody's wearing your shirt or your pictures on the stadium. Like, give him what he's worth. Give him what it. And if Miami wants to give you $1 million to play quarterback for them, awesome. Ohio State won the national championship last year, and right after it, someone said to me, "Yeah, they bought them a championship." I go, "Good." Like, they wanted to win a championship, so they invested in football. If they invested in a theater program and had the best theater program in the country, all right, like, that's cool too. Everyone gets to choose what they want to be good at. It costs, what's it cost? $100,000 a year to go to Harvard?
Yeah,
Well,
it's crazy.
Well, if that's what they want to charge, cool. Well, do that. All right. Because you get to dictate to the market. They can charge 100,000 because people want to go there. Yeah. All right. Ohio State, I guarantee they didn't lose money this year. All right. No. So, and by the way, there are people, but at Ohio State, when they lost to Michigan, they wanted to fire their coaches. Why? Because the expectation is to win that game. And if I said to you, Jacob, I will pay you X number of dollars, and that's some insane value. You're like, yeah, I want that money. There's only one rule. You have to win that game. Okay, that's the deal. Like, when somebody comes to cut my grass, all right, they come to cut my grass. And I go, how much is it? They go, it's $20. Cool. All right, good deal. I'll give you $20. You cut my grass. They say it's $100. And I'm like, I don't know if I want my grass cut that bad. Okay. Like, everybody has their value, and Ohio State values football, and Texas A&M values football, and Miami values football. And so that's cool that's what they want to do. And so I'm glad to see that players get what they deserve. Coaches are getting what they do. Everybody gets what they deserve in a free market.
Yes, sir. Yeah, no, I agree. And it's also like, like, as you like elocuted very well, it's like supply and demand, right? Like, there's enough of a demand where Canes Collective can give Carson Beck $6 million, then he should get it, I guess, right? Because, like, that's just like with the market, that's what the supply and demand marketplace basically is saying.
Do you know why I didn't get $6 million to play for the University of Miami? Because I wasn't good enough. Like that Carson Beck got that because, like, whatever he's done in his life has led him to the point that someone who has $6 million was willing to say, I will give you $6 million.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, isn't that what this, like, that's
Okay.
what our society is about?
It's
You know,
capitalism,
it's
basically.
capitalism.
That's what it is. Yeah, it's like, because people say, oh, it's supposed to be like just your name, image, and likeness, and the collectives is a whole other thing. But the collectives are still dictating, it's still dictatorial, I guess, is the word of their market value, so to speak. So that's a great point.
I mean,
Uh,
that's if my school wants to invest in any program, what if we wanted to have the best band? I was watching uh, some the other day, and you see the Grambling bands and the Southern bands and stuff like. You can tell bands are important to them, and they invest into their bands, and
FAMU.
other
Yeah.
schools don't because that's what they find value in.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Um, so also going to the JUCO ruling, um, do you think that the JUCO ruling could make it more difficult for anyone who's not in the ESPN top 300 to go to Power 5? Or you don't think it'll have any effect? Like coaches won't be looking at high schoolers as much potentially
Oh,
because of the
I
JUCO rule?
I don't think it's necessarily because of JUCO rule. I don't. I think because of the transfer portal, there's no reason to look at. Okay, so there's no reason to look at developmental players. All right, you're going to have to find your spot to develop. So big fish are going to eat little fish. If I'm at an Oklahoma, all right, why would I go to it? The only high school player I'm going to go get is one that could play for me now. Urban Meyer was the first coach I ever heard say this when he was in Florida. Like they only recruit guys that can play for them this next season. All right. Like that. And by the way, it's not that it's the NIL or the JUCO rule that changed that. It's college presidents that changed that. It's athletic directors that changed that. It's fans that changed that. When I played college football, every coach got 5 years. All right. You were supposed to get your recruiting class. So if they hired you as a coach, you got 5 years. You would go out, you recruit your first class, and you could lose every game for 4 years. But on that fifth year, all right, he's had his shot. He's been able to develop his guys and this thing. He had 5 years. Well, then it got to be where they were giving you 2 and 3 years. Well, that's why people started going to junior college, or because they would go to junior college to get that fill-in guy. Because man, we got to win next year, so I can't go get to a high school kid and wait for him to develop. Well, now it's year to year, like literally year to year. Every coach is like that, and and you lose the wrong game or the wrong kid transfers or this, like it's literally year to year. So because of the pressure to win at all levels, not Power 5, all levels, our society has gotten to where they want you to win. It doesn't. It's pretty extreme, and everybody says they're reasonable until the unreasonable game, until you play your rival or you don't win at the game, because there's always someone in the stands, with a comment. All right. And it's remember, if you got 85 guys on your team, you got 100 guys on, only 11 are on the yard at a time. So somebody's in the stands upset that they're not playing enough and this and that. So if you don't win the right game versus the right team, I mean, did Ryan Day become that much better of a coach over 5 weeks? Or like they were going to fire him because of the Michigan game, but now he's the national champion and they let he didn't get that much smarter. And I would tell you that when they won the national championship, I didn't think anybody outside their team had the right to celebrate. All right. Like, because the whole world turned against that team, and that team galvanized and went out and won themselves a championship. It was pretty impressive what they did. Um, you know, I would tell you that big fish eat little fish, and so the biggest schools are only going to look for guys that can play for them right now. And because of that, high school kids, maturity wise, aren't physically where they need to be a lot of times, and so I think that's what's going to slow that down. I think it's going to be a benefit to junior college, because why wouldn't you go to a junior college and play 2 years instead of wasting eligibility at a why would I go to a D2 school? I could go to junior college, I could play 2 years, and then I could go to that D2 school if I wasn't good enough and still have 4 years eligibility.
Yeah, no, that's very interesting. And so do you think that this new junior college ruling, assuming it increases demands for players to attend junior college, do you think that coaches may look at that almost as much as they look at the portal? Or you think the portal will still be like their number one asset of recruiting?
I think down the road, I think a couple things have to happen. A couple junior colleges have to utilize the new rule, and so that they turn themselves into a prep school. And what I mean by that is they actively recruit guys that have the body types to play at high levels. We used to recruit internationally. If your body type fit what we were looking for, we'd bring you in. And the left tackle for the Philadelphia Eagles, they developed him into a football player, a ton of football. If the right junior colleges focused on development, junior colleges could become a prep school like school. And I would say that at the biggest schools, anyone that can play, they'll come get. But you have to be good enough to participate right now and contribute right now. Otherwise, but the transfer portal will be the first option, unless a junior college coach does it the right way. And the only way a junior college coach can do it the right way is if he has an administration that supports him. And I think that's for all sports. Like, if I was a college president right now at a junior college and I wanted to up my enrollment, I would invest into the athletic program, and I would bring in a bunch of students that were coming there to develop themselves so that they could have 6 years eligibility versus 4.
Interesting. And then adding on to that, how do you think all this could affect like FCS schools and HBCU schools? Like, do you think all this between the portal, high school, and JUCO with all these new rulings, do you think it's going to make it more difficult for those coaches and those players to get exposed, or not really?
That's a really good question. And I think it could go a couple different ways. FCS and D2s, their level of football could go down because they could recruit high school kids. They get them there, and then when they become really good, someone steals them and takes them away. All right. So now you'll never have a first round draft pick at a FCS school. He'll get taken away. You'll never have that story of the guy who, a good example is the quarterback at Miami. All right. Like, he went to Incarnate Word. All right. So, and here's the deal though, the system worked for him because he got to go from Incarnate Word to Miami, and now he might be the first pick in the draft. He would have never been the first pick of the draft in Incarnate Word. No, even though he's the same human, okay, they just never would have taken him first from Incarnate Word. He'd have been a third, fourth, fifth, sixth round pick. Okay. Well, he was able to use that to go to Washington State and then to Miami. So that level of football will be worse because they'll never have a guy like him as a senior. Okay. That's one way it could go. The other way it could go, in my opinion, is it could be better. Okay. Now, how is it better? Don't recruit high school. Okay. Recruit out of junior college. And now your freshmen are 20. Okay. So now you have 20-year-old freshmen, 21-year-old sophomores, 22 and 20. So you have no teenagers on your team. You have no young guys on your team. So your team is older. Now, you'll never have that great player, all right? But you'll have more good players on your team that are older than having 18 and 19-year-olds on the team.
So do you think that like because you think they'll still be competing with Division One for those kinds of players? Like you think that Division One will still like they'll still bat an eye on it more than they did prior to the ruling, or you think that Division Two will dominate that JUCO, having that 21-year-old freshman?
Well, what I would say is the right players will end up at the right levels. Okay. Um, you talk about Cam Ward. He he didn't he went to Incarnate Word for whatever reason. I didn't see him in high school, so I don't know. Maybe he was lean and hadn't gained enough weight. Maybe he played behind a great senior, so he didn't his film didn't get out and people didn't know about him. But but in the olden days, he would have went Incarnate Word. He'd have been there for 4 years. Okay. Now he goes to Incarnate Word. He plays well. He gets to go to Washington State. He plays well. He gets to go to Miami. So you actually are playing at the level you should be at. And Cam Ward should be at Miami. That's why he got there. Now, there are other guys that, by the way, there might be guys. We always talk about this. What about the guys that go D1 and then they transfer down? Okay. Because they weren't good enough. They got recruited because of their size. What I would say is at the end of the day, everyone will end up exactly where they're supposed to be under this system. In the old system, a guy would go Division 1 because he was big enough and he looked the part and this and that, and we'll try to develop him. But when you get him there, he really isn't that hard a worker. He really doesn't love the sport. But man, we can't let him go because there's rules that say if you only can sign this many guys. So if I lose them, I don't have people for practice, and I don't, So I believe in this system. It actually people end up exactly where they're supposed to be and paid relatively what they should get paid.
That's very interesting because I've interviewed a lot of junior college coaches, and I love all your conflicting points. I interviewed Iowa Western coach
Yeah.
Strotmere. I don't know if you're familiar with
Drama,
him.
yeah,
Great
Scott
guy,
Drama, yeah,
great guy.
yep.
So I love like all your conflicting opinions. I think it's fantastic. You guys are so insightful, all of you. So going from that JUCO ruling, I don't know if you've heard about this Division 2 rule.
Mhm.
They granted a player from Wisconsin a preliminary injunction to allow Division 2 to not lose eligibility. Are you
No,
familiar with that or not?
no, I didn't. So he didn't lose eligibility because he wasn't able to make money.
Yeah, so he basically played a couple years at Division 2, and he
Mhm.
basically said because Diego Pavia being at a junior college, because the whole junior college rule was with Diego Pavia.
Yep, yep,
So he said because Diego Pavia didn't lose eligibility, I shouldn't lose eligibility because I also didn't play to D1. So
right.
they haven't granted this for everybody like they did for JUCO,
Mhm.
but what they did do was they gave him a preliminary injunction because he said he needed to know what he needed to do before the NFL draft so that he could make a decision as to whether he was just going to go to the draft or stay at Wisconsin and get paid some more money.
Right,
So my question would be if that rule was granted for everybody, because Division 2 is part of the NCAA, JUCO's not.
right.
So if they granted that rule for everybody, could that deter people from going to JUCOs and more inclined to go to Division 2? Why or why
Yeah,
not, I guess.
absolutely. I think absolutely. If the facilities, I think people will go where they can get the best development. And so I would say to you that if Division 2 and junior college, okay, didn't count on your eligibility, well, I think there's more Division 2s with better facilities, better dorms, better towns to develop academically and athletically. So yes, but I would also say that you said you talked to Coach Strohmeyer. Well, I'd go to Iowa Western before I'd go to uh, a lesser Division two. I mean, if you're talking about you're going to go to Central Missouri State or a poor junior college, well, you'd go to Central Missouri State. But if you're talking about going to Iowa Western versus a poor D2, well, you'd go to Iowa Western. It really comes down to where you're going to get the education and development that you want. And you know, and I think, you know, at the end of the day, you know, I think, you know, you do what your school wants to do, and the student does what the student wants to do. I mean, when I was a football coach, we would recruit guys on the up and up, and honest as could be, to Florida Atlantic University to come to the school, and they would say, the kid would say, I want to be an engineer. But we knew that with his GPA and where he was, that the odds of him being an engineer were to be really slim. All right. But that's what he wanted. We had an engineering program. We'd show him this and that. And then the NCAA said you had to have progress towards degree. So then you get to a certain point where he's not passing his classes, he's not doing well in it. So he has to choose. And 80% of our players at that time would graduate with a criminal justice degree. All right. Well, yeah, they got a college degree, but that's not what they went to college for. All right. They really went to college to play football. And so to me, by the way, if you pay the players, if you give them the eligibility, well, then they can follow the academic track that they want. They can do the things that they want. You know, I've thought for years that I don't understand why the football and the school go together. If you wanted to be a professional tennis player, you can go and be a tennis player. You can, you know, if you look at other countries, you know, they have their amateur sports division and they have education, and they're not tied together. You know, I mean, I'm sure David Beckham didn't go to the University of New England, University of England on scholarship to play soccer there. He focused on soccer because that was what the skill set he had, and that's where his focus was. So, you know, I don't see any problem if athletics became a minor league. And by the way, is it better to be on scholarship, not paid, getting a degree you don't want, all right, pursuing a sport that you like, but you're only allowed to work 20 hours a week, all right, because they want you to go to classes that you're half-hearted into, all right? Why wouldn't it be better to be focused on becoming the best football player you can be, to where you make enough money that you can pay for yourself to go get an education? My son was in the United States Army. He worked in the United States Army, and he worked for them for 5 years. And because of what he did for them, he got his GI Bill. All right. So now he goes and he gets his education. So why can't I play football at the University of Oklahoma, represent the state, the Oklahoma Sooners? I pour into my chosen field, which is football. And when my career is over, I've made enough money that I can pay for myself to go to school.
Wow. Yeah, that's a great point. That's an excellent point, because then, like, you know, it's also a better, that could be a better ROI for the schools as well.
Sure.
For sure. That's a very, very interesting point. Um, sorry, I just have like a few more questions.
No
Thank you so much for taking the time. This has been like fantastic.
problem, buddy.
Um, just a few more things. Do you think that junior colleges are gonna need collectives because of this new rule, or not really?
Um, I, I I think everybody has to be nimble, and you know, you said you talked to a bunch of different coaches and you get different opinions and stuff like that. Uh, you know, the people that win 5 years from now, 10 years from now, are the people that are going to be the most creative and nimble. And the people that are going to lose are going to be the people that try to hold on to the. It used to be like this. Well, you know what? Our phones used to have a cord that stuck to the wall. Things change. I'm sure that there was a guy riding a horse around when cars were going around, going, "Man, I like my horse." All right, like things evolve. All right, this has evolved. Whoever is the most creative is going to win the championships. And champions, in my opinion, this will be a popular opinion, but my opinion is football coaches don't win championships. Administrations win championships. Right? Every football coach, there's this much difference between football coaches. They're all working their ass off. They're all really, dedicated to the kids and to the sport and this and that, with about that much difference between them. The difference becomes what school invests in their program. So the gap now becomes this. And so whoever's a creative coach who gets with a creative administration and finds the value in it. To me, the value for a junior college would be increased enrollment, increased marketing. I do believe that football is the front porch to your college and university. In our society, winners follow winners, and the world reports on football. And so when you have a winning football team, they think you have a winning school, and that attracts people and makes it cool. You went to the University of Miami, and I've been to the University of Miami, and I've been to Florida Atlantic University. And while you went there, I don't think there's a huge difference between the University of Miami and Florida Atlantic University. But I will tell you, that football team makes Miami the U, and everybody knows what the U is. But I mean, they're both beautiful campuses. They're both have great educations. But one of them is the U, all right? And Howard Snellenberger was a part of that. And that's why he went to Florida Atlantic, because he thought he could do the same thing there. But they haven't, the one thing Howard Snellenberger didn't anticipate when he went to Florida Atlantic was when he was trying to develop the U at Miami, he didn't have the U to compete with. There was no school down there at Florida Atlantic, you got to, Miami's down the street, all right? And everybody wants to be a Hurricane, all right? And so, that's why they've made it what it is, all right? I mean, Central Florida would love to be the Florida Gators, but they ain't. And so, that's and they like it that way. I mean, the reality is it'll be interesting. Whoever's innovative, whoever utilize it, I would tell you that you should utilize the rules, not try to change them.
Great point, right? Because you got to adapt or die at the end of the day. It doesn't matter if you like the rule or not. It's just like the rule is the rule. Like nothing's going to be perfect. So like you just have to learn to change. So
Yep.
that's a great point. Well, um, I think that should be it. Um, Thank you so much for taking the time. I really, really appreciate it. I
Hey,
don't want to take up too much of your time, so
no,
I know
you're
this is
you're
a little
fantastic.
longer.
You're fantastic, and anything I can do for you, I will tell you this, that I really believe in and appreciate what junior college football has done for people and can do for people. So anytime that I can do something positive for junior college football, I would do that. And anybody that played junior college football or coached junior college football, to me, has a special place in the world, because um, you know if you haven't done it, the sacrifice is real. And you brought up Jason Brown, Scott Strohmeyer, Troy Morels, uh, you know,
Coach
all those.
Dallas. Yeah.
Who'd you say?
Coach Dallas from Hutchinson.
Yeah, Coach Dallas. I mean, with Coach Dallas, but Ryan Rhodes was there before him and helped build that program. Um, you know, uh, Buddy Stevens he's like Buddy Stevens, like, have you been to that town? Like, it's, if you blink, you're gonna miss it. All right. And he went there and he built something that everybody in America knows a little bit about. Like, that's pretty special.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I have a special play, and to see the Levante Davids, the Jason Pierre-Pauls, Aaron Rodgers went to junior college. I mean, John Madden went to junior college. The amount of positive effects that it has had on people, I think there's, it's, I like community college because it's open enrollment. Anybody can get in. All right. It shouldn't be hard to get into college. It should be hard to graduate from college.
Yeah.
Right. So I think it's cool. I really appreciate what you're doing. Anything I can ever do for you, please reach out. Okay.
Hey, look, if I ever need a moving company and I happen to move to Kansas City, I know who I'm going to call. The number one, only the number one, right?
I appreciate you, buddy. Anything
Yeah.
you do, let me know.
Yeah.
I hope I did a good job for you.
Yeah, no, I mean, you did. Like I said, I just hope I didn't, take too long because,
No,
like,
bro. No, we're good.
okay.
That's why they're not. You have a great day, buddy.
Thank you. You too, coach. It was very nice to meet you.
Later.